In college algebra the last few days, we've been doing compound interest. We have two formulas at the bottom of the screen that we'll be using. One is if it says it's going to be compounded a certain number of times a year, and then it'll literally use the word continuously compounded, and we'll use that formula to the right of that. I call that one the PERT formula. The one question that people have is on number of compoundings per year, how do you know what N is? And it's easy to mix that up with T. But N is the number of times a year that it's compounded. So annually is the most simple because that's just once. Monthly would be 12, quarterly would be 4, and semi-annually would be 2. Otherwise, you just plug these in. P up here, this is the amount you deposit at the beginning. R, if interest rate is, for example, 4%, we're going to use R equals 0.04. So make sure you move that decimal. Otherwise, it's very straightforward. T needs to be years. A, this is usually the answer right there. If they ask how much interest was gained, that equals the final result minus the initial result. All right, let's try this out. So on number 1, we're going to invest $8,000 for 6 years. So for both accounts, it refers to P is 8,000 and T is 6. We have to pick between two accounts. One of them is monthly, and one of them is continuous. I'm struggling to spell there. There we go. For the monthly account, R is 7%, and N is 12. For the continuous one, R goes down a little bit, 0.0685. And we're going to plug into those two formulas up there at the top of the screen. So we will go 8,000, or let's say A equals 8,000, 1 plus the rate divided by number of times a year raised to number of times a year times number of years. And we'll type that in. When you type it in, you should get 12,160 and 84. I'll show that in just a second. Let's do the continuous first. So continuous, we're still going to use 8,000. We'll press the E button for that natural number. Raise it to the 0.0685 times 6. On that one, I believe we get a little less money. We get those two results. All right, let's look at the calculator just in case someone needs help typing this in. You just want to go slow, use parentheses, and we're doing $8,000 times parenthesis 1 plus. If you press Control Divide, it'll give you a nice fraction. We're talking about 7%. Monthly Move your cursor outside of the parentheses, raise it to the 12 times 6. Make sure it was 6. Yes, it was 6. And we get what I wrote down. Now notice that 0.84 isn't there, it rounded. So if you highlight your number, if you press up, highlight it, hit enter, you see it's actually 84 cents right there. So be careful with that. Calculator might round your answer. Good to highlight it and hit enter. For the continuous one, 8,000 times, press E to the 0.0685 times 6. And also it rounded it. So those are our two results. All right, back to the problems. Let's try 2 more problems. On number 2, now we have $10,000 to invest. That's P. R is 8%, so we'll use 0.08. T is 5. For the first account, we're going to do this 4 times a year because it says quarterly. And then for the second account, we'll use that PERT formula. So on part A, we're going to go 10,000 times 1 plus 0.08 divided by 4 raised to the 4 times 5. When you type that in, you should get 14,859.47. I forgot to mention it in the previous problem. On number 1, the monthly one comes out as better because it asks which account should we choose. And on number 1, the monthly earns more money because it's a bigger number than continuous. I think the opposite happens on this one. So we go 10,000 times E to the 0.08 times 5. And on this one, you should get 14,918.25. Maybe hit pause, make sure you can get those 2 results. This one is better. More money. It's hard to predict this, which one is going to win. I mean, you can guess, but I feel like anytime I guess, I always end up being wrong. Most of these are all very, very close. They're just barely different. If we're talking about 30 years of investing, it might be very different. 5 years is a pretty short amount of time. All right, let's try one last one. Maybe hit pause, try and do it on your own. On this one, P is 12,000. We're investing for 3 years into 2 different accounts. One of them is a monthly account, and one of them is a continuous. For the monthly, R is 0.07 and N is 12. For the continuous, R is 0.0685. All right, let's plug it in. We're going to go 12 to the 12 times 3. When we type it all in, we should get 14,795 and 11 cents. For the continuous, that's the PERT formula. on this one, we should get 14, 737, and 67 cents. So naturally, pick the larger number, and this one is better, the monthly. All right, I hope that made sense. I will see y'all later.